Savvy Artist. This is Miss A. I'm here introducing a series of videos. So for this series of videos, I'm interviewing a variety of people. Most of these people were my ex-students. Some of them are practicing artists that I've met along the way. And really, these videos are here to inspire you. They are here to show you where you can take your art education. Not all of you will become artists, but I feel that, art is really, really important no matter what you end up doing later on in life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really, really enjoy these. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. That inspires us to do more videos that are hopefully of interest to you. This is Miss A. All the best.
Hello, my name is Dwight Smith. I'm a professor of visual arts at Fayetteville State University, located in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I am an associate professor with tenure that I recently received, and I'm really pleased with that. So I am a professor at what is considered a historically Black college and university, which is an HBCU. As I said, I am a painter. I consider myself an abstract expressionist painter. I paint watercolor, acrylic, and oil, depending on the kind of theme that runs through my work. A lot of my work runs through with African-centered kinds of imagery. I love Adinkra symbols, and I think much of that comes from the fact that when I was in Detroit, I was a graphic designer for the Automobile Clubs of Michigan, and as a graphic designer and art director, that's a lot of graphic work and posters, designs, TV commercials, billboards, those kinds of things that I was involved in doing. I went to Wayne State University, and I have a BA, BFA, and an MA from Wayne State University, and I received my MFA at Lesley University College of Art and Design, the Art Institute of Boston, AIB, which was a wonderful experience. If you look, there's a watercolor painting behind me. That's one of my works. It is a collage work of watercolor, and it is a pretty large work. But notice around it, there are other forms of cultural icons or elements. I am really into African, the ideas and symbolism and the wonderful workings of African and African American art, and I study it and I use it a lot in my practice. So I use a lot of Adinkra symbols, but I also use the patterns and design forms that are within the scope of African art, and then mesh it with the ideas of what is contemporary Black culture in America, where some of the symbolisms from the quilt patterns of the Southern quilt patterns, or the ideas of those forms that mesh together within the sense of African American aesthetics. So I really work within those kinds of concepts. So getting back to my work, I use found materials, sand, soil, lots of different kinds of things to create the paintings that I create. My paintings are usually about, I like this kind of 36 by 36 or 36 by 72, 62 inches. I'm kind of working very large, and I use a lot of acrylic-based house paint. So it's mixed media, and it's very textural. So my work at many times is kind of a combination or collage of art history. So sometimes you see my work, it looks like it could have been cut from a cave wall and then, set up on a wall for a canvas. But then when you get into the surface textures of it, you'll see that there's spray paint, which is a very contemporary medium to use. So there's soil, there's house paint, there's textural kinds of elements and cardboard that have textures that ripple through them. And so those kinds of things for me, in adding all of those different kind of elements, comes together to create the work that I do now. Another body of work that I'm doing are my drawings, my large drawings. which are done on pastel chalk. So with those drawings are 28 inches by they could be 30 inches, or they could be done on rice paper, which could be very long. So I'm doing lots of drawings, very abstract, very linear, and color, lots of color. So that's pretty much where I am with who I am as an artist. And working at Fayetteville State University is very fulfilling. I do a lot of mentoring. I work a lot with the students in helping them to make decisions on where their careers are going to go, and through the art histories, helping them understand the different kinds of artists that have come before them and what their visual practices were. And understanding that, yes, this is what the kinds of things that you're doing are contemporary, but there are a lot of other artists who've done the same kinds of things that you have done. So where does your art now fit into this kind of canon of art history? So there's a lot of conversation, a lot of dialoguing about the narratives of art and art history, and where they will find themselves fitting into all of that, as well as teaching them how to use the paint mediums. In high school, I signed up and had art all the way through high school, along with the academics that I did. So that was one foundation. And then going to college, which then prepared me to do what I needed to do as a person who had decided to be an artist. And then there was all of that training that went along with that. So as far as my preparation goes, in elementary school, I had teachers who were very encouraging in my ability, in the fact that I wanted to be an artist. Not that I knew that there was a career that I could take as an artist, because I didn't know anything about all the people who were artists. I come from a background where my dad is a factory worker, my mom, was a housewife, and so then there were 8 kids of us, and so essentially, my understanding that you could have a career as an artist was non-existent until I got into college, and then found out that you could really have a wonderful career as an artist and make money. So if anyone ever says to you that you can't make any money being an artist, well, that's not true. There are a host of artists out there who are making very good jobs as artists. The art world is an $840 billion a year business. And so there are a host of artists who are doing very well. Now, how well you do depends on you, depends on how you study, how you practice, how you develop your craft, your visual practice, and how serious you are about it. I knew that I wanted to be an artist, so that's the path that I took. And I was very fortunate to discover and meet many individuals who, in this path that I was taking, who were willing to mentor me, to really discuss what being an artist was, especially for a person who looked like me. As a Black man in America, becoming an artist, at first, even at Wayne State University, I didn't know that there was a rich history of African Americans or Black Americans who were very successful artists. So having an educational career and individuals who mentor you, who understand the business, who understand the art world, who understand about art history and the different movements in art are very important. And so I was fortunate enough to have those individuals who really helped and assisted me in growing my talent as an artist. The other thing is that I joined different art groups, especially groups that were dedicated to promoting the career paths of African American artists. And so I joined a group called the National Conference of Artists, which had a Michigan chapter, and which currently has chapters in a lot of different places around the country. So that was the group that really helped me grow and develop as an artist, and then really also hone into what my visual practice was all about. Because then I was able to meet artists like Romar Bearden, Richmond Barthé, Samela Lewis, Margaret Burroughs, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, Willis Bing Davis, John Onye Lockhart, Robert J. Stull, who was a wonderful ceramicist, Paul Goodnight, who is excellent at drawing, John Lockhart I mentioned, who was a phenomenal painter. So I was able to meet them, Shirley Woodson Reed, and a host of other people that this organization brought to my attention and also allowed me to meet. Also growing up in Detroit, there was the Friends of African and African American Art at the Detroit Institute of Arts. They would bring in many artists for lectures, demonstrations, discussions. Wayne State University also had an artist series where they would bring in many artists to meet. In Detroit with the Art Institute, Detroit Institute of Arts, the National Conference of Artists, many of the African American Black galleries that were developing. So Detroit had a hub of visual arts excitement that was going on. So those things were critical in my growth and development. When I transitioned from high school to college, the transition was not as easy as I thought. But I was surprised that I was more prepared than I thought I was. And so that transition into the university level and taking those art courses, I really was privileged to have certain professional artists who were working there who kind of worked with me. But then, because I'm Black, there were a bunch of artists who wouldn't work with me, instructors. So you had to deal with that. And so I'm dealing with those issues of being Black in America, in Detroit, which you would think would be a Black city at that time, but Wayne State University at that time in the 60s was a very white organization. But there were lots of faculty members who were there who did mentor and talk with me and help me develop my craft in the area of painting. It was at Wayne State University that I met Peter Williams, who is really a wonderful painter, who really helped in developing my ideas with oil painting. Because when I first started at Wayne State University, I was doing mainly watercolor. I love to draw, and I did watercolor. So most of my time was spent taking all the watercolor courses with Louise Nobili, who was the watercolor instructor then, and then Michael Mahoney. I went to school and worked full-time. So I worked full-time at the Automobile Club of Michigan as a graphic designer, or at first started out at a print shop. And in the print shop, then I moved into doing graphic design and layout, and then moved up into being the artist with the artist in residence in the motor news or PR or public relations department. Then I moved up to being an artist, a graphic designer in the marketing department. And then from marketing, it went from there to there to, and so on and so forth. So that provided the job. All the artists I know who are really good at what they do, many of them have another job that pays the bills. So you get a job that pays the bills so that you can then buy supplies and materials to continue your practice of making art. So when I'm making art, I had the National Conference of Artists, which was an organization that allowed me to then participate in the exhibitions. The shows, the exhibitions were wonderful. I would go to see all the exhibitions at the DIA. Seeing art was very important. All students need to visually be able to see art, look at a lot of art, practice. You have to have a passion and a desire to practice your craft. You have to keep doing it. So my transition from high school to the university level to the master's level was softened for me because I belonged to the National Conference of Artists. And the National Conference of Artists had a Michigan chapter. And within that Michigan chapter were about 40 different African-American artists who were art educators, who worked at the museum, who had galleries, who had their own visual practice, who were traveling all over the country. And then we would have exhibitions, we'd have lectures, and conferences. And the conferences with that organization were very important because that's where you really got a chance to meet all the different artists who were Black in America, who were doing very important kinds of things as artists. So meeting Samela Lewis, Elizabeth Catlett, Richmond Barthé, Romar Bearden, and a host of others, Jacob Lawrence, and a host of other people that you got a chance to meet and talk to. So that was very important for my growing up. One of the things that I think that's very important for high school students to learn is, one, is to know that there is a possibility of a career as an artist. I think if you look at all the movies that you see now that are out, especially the Avengers or the Transformer movies or all of those Marvel comic movies, you look at the credits at the end of them, and there are hundreds of digital design artists who are behind making these movies. So yes, you can become an artist as a digital design artist. You could also become a practicing visual artist and selling at art fairs and different spaces around the country. So you can do that. But you really have to develop a career sense and a discipline that this is what you want to do. And many times people who look like me don't have the background of the family or background of individuals who understand what being an artist is all about. So you really have to be very strong at your commitment to developing as an artist who is at the top of your game, which means you have to practice, you have to be disciplined, you have to find out what other artists are doing. You have to be able to listen to someone. And if you find someone who's going to mentor you, then listen to what that person says and do what that person says, because someone who takes the time out to mentor you is really going to have your back, who's really going to want to pull you along and help you grow and develop. Why? Because they see something in you. So you have to be respectful, you have to understand what they're talking about and pay your dues. But in high school is your job. Elementary, middle school, and high school, that's your job. To learn as much as possible so that your grades are as good as they possibly can be, so that you can move into the university or college environment or art school. You might want to go to Yale. Yale has a great art school. Harvard has an art school. There are lots of art schools all over the country that you may want to get into, but your portfolio has to be really good, or at least show that you have the ability to learn more and grow and develop and become an artist that you want to become. Now, are you going to make $1 million right off the bat? No, you aren't going to do that. Nobody does. Very few. There are 5 or 6, that do that. But being an artist many times is a struggle until you make it. And sometimes you make it and sometimes you don't. But what's your passion? If being an artist is your passion, then that's what you got to do. Because if you wake up in the morning and you think art, you go to bed at night and you think art, do that. That's what's going to make you happy. Most creative people can do a lot of things. I was kind of a creative person who could sing, who could dance, who made art, who toured in dance companies and other things like that. But when it came down to what I was really passionate about, the decision was made to be the visual artist. And I still have a respect for contemporary dance. I still have a love symphonic music, opera. I love all those things that I've been able to experience, not by doing, but going to and seeing. So I've developed what I feel is a very broad cultural respect for all of the creative disciplines. I think being an artist is, for me, it has been very wonderful. It has been very enriching, very fulfilling. And I really have enjoyed all the people that I have met along the way. So I hope that this helps in understanding who I am as an artist, and that some of this has helped you in understanding the importance of an art education, which is so extremely important in the growth and development of every single person. Art education happens in the school, it happens at home, it happens in art museums, galleries, workshops. Everybody is involved in art history. And art history really is, art education leads to art history, and that's how we know about people. We know civilizations were all about is through the arts, and we learn about that in art education. Thank you very much for allowing me to do this and talk about myself, my work, and myself as a professor. This was a very casual, off-the-cuff kind of discussion, and I hope it helps. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.